Hello, everyone, and welcome to another amazing episode of the Next Health Forefront podcast. So happy to introduce all of you to our amazing guest that we have today, Mona Sharma. She is a celebrity health and wellness coach / nutritionist / many other things, which we're going to find all about here in a few minutes, to many high-profile celebrities, also to many just people in general. And she's spreading the word of all of her knowledge base. I can't wait to have you meet her. I know we've had some amazing conversations. I'm here with my co-host and co-founder, Kevin Peak, as well. And really excited to get started on this.
Thanks for having me. Yeah, I love you guys. Great to be here.
Yeah, I know you've been to Next Health a few times and bring your clients by.
Yeah, the second I found you, it was like a mission to get people to you guys. It's great
awesome.
to find you. Yeah,
thank you. Well, hopefully, we're adding something to your practice.
Oh yeah,
yeah. I feel like you have a lot of testing that you do with your clients with us, and you use that information and customize a plan for them, right?
Yeah, you got it. So, as a nutritionist, I really don't like the idea of going blind. I'm also not a fan of dieting. So, if I can really, especially now, we understand the science behind this. If I can look at someone's biology, at their genetics, and really understand where the imbalance is coming from, then it just gives us both a sense of ease so much faster. We can get to the root cause of the issue and just get them on a healing journey so that they feel good, right? That's the mission. Get everybody feeling great as soon as possible.
Right. Like, I feel like before, nutrition was always just like let's try this and see if it works. Let's try this and see if it works. And like the elimination diets were, so random and all over the place. Like, basically have to eliminate everything, put one thing back in one at a time and see what happened, how you felt.
So the hardest diet. Yeah, the hardest diet on the planet is the elimination diet too, right?
It's like impossible.
Totally.
Like, how do people do that?
And not only that, I find for so many people, the second you commit to a diet, it's this really unhealthy relationship with food because you label food as good food or bad food, and then inevitably it causes this cycle of being on the wagon and then off the wagon. You feel so much guilt, right? So my mission with my clients really is to, end this cycle and really just look at food as a form of nourishment, right? That's the whole purpose, and to feel good with it and make it something that you like really enjoy. And yet more often than not, there's this negative psychology with food that they have, learned behaviors around food that make them, not feel good about themselves. Or you guys know probably more than anybody else, this, what do I do? I've tried everything. What do I do now? Right?
There's so much confusion.
So much confusion.
And I love that you said that you don't believe in diets, because it's all about, I think, eating appropriately for who you are. But I mean, can we expand on that a little bit? Because most people in the world of nutrition subscribe to some diet or another. I just love that you don't. I'd love to hear about it.
Yeah, I think more than anything, when I speak with somebody, it's really understanding you as your unique constitution. Where did you come from? How did you grow up? What were the foods that you ate growing up? And understanding that as a result, one diet is not going to work for each individual, right? And I think you also know how many people have tried a diet and not felt good on it, right?
Exactly.
I'll use myself as an example. I try everything for the sake of being able to speak about it to my clients. I tried keto and I felt like garbage. It was not right for my constitution, right? And so I think that when people have that understanding and saying, oh yeah, well maybe I need, this food because of my ethnic heritage and this is what my ancestors were brought up on, or maybe I need this because biologically I have this imbalance and I need to take care of it, right? Or maybe I'm prone to anxiety and depression and these foods really don't serve me.
Right.
And it's, if you switch it and really make each person, each client their own educator, their own teacher, then it's like so liberating, right?
Absolutely.
And then you can actually just enjoy the process because it's a journey, right? We also know that as we age, our needs are going to change, right? So to adhere to one diet for the rest of your life is just, it doesn't even make sense.
Doesn't make sense. Your biology totally changes and you have to keep modifying your diet based on what your biology needs at that point in time.
You got it.
We always do this with dive into the science because it's so interesting. You're so full of knowledge, but I want people to know more about you because you have an incredible story. I mean, you were brought up in an ashram. I mean, that's just mind-blowing to me. I'd love to hear the story behind that.
Absolutely. Thank you. Yeah, looking back at it, what an a gift during the process. So, my dad is East Indian. My mom is Danish. And growing up, my mom, for as long as I've known, she suffered from debilitating autoimmune disease, rheumatoid arthritis. Her entire body's deformed. This is all I've ever known my mom to be. With my dad's background growing up in India, he knew about ashram living, and he took us to, I'm from Toronto, Canada. He took us to an ashram in Valmorin, which is in Montreal, beautiful up in the mountains every single summer. Ashram living is really about food as medicine, living in community, a return to mindfulness, honoring your constitution, getting a sense of rest and digest every single day. And I saw firsthand the healing power of food, right? My mom would leave almost symptom-free, right? But of course, this isn't reality, right? We can't live this way every single day. Unfortunately, I threw all of this awareness out the window growing up. You could say, in my old life, I was actually, I worked as a national sales and artistry trainer in the luxury cosmetic world. So brands like Christian Dior, Tom Ford, and on paper, it sounds so beautiful. I was able to travel the world, do makeup for celebrities and fashion shows. And at the end of the day, it was just a typical corporate sales job, right? Very familiar story for so many people. I was burning out. I was waking up in hotel rooms not knowing what city I was in. I was stressed. I was about 40 pounds heavier, compounded with the fact that I had had 2 heart surgeries.
Wow.
Yeah. So when I was about 19 years old, I was diagnosed with atrial tachycardia, heart condition, electrical, was an open heart surgery. At the time, not one doctor asked me about my stress levels, what I was eating, what was happening in my life, what my emotions were like. They put me on beta blockers right away. I gained weight. I became completely lethargic. I used to be incredibly active, and that all stopped. And the solution was a Band-Aid solution, right? Go in and have this ablation, this surgery. And I thought that, okay, anything to do the quick fix, right? We all want the quick fix, the Band-Aid solution. Right. So I did it. And the next morning I woke up in the hospital and it didn't work. I felt my heart palpitations, pounding heartbeat. And it scared me because whenever this happened, I felt like I was going to pass out. So what was the solution again? Try second surgery, right? Sure enough, I went back in and they discovered that if they were to do the procedure again, they would have burned off potentially my sinus node, which means that I would have lived with a pacemaker for the rest of my life. Not an option, right? Like really not an option. So when I started then in my corporate days, returning to all of these symptoms of heart palpitations, being overweight, feeling tired, lethargic, full of anxiety, worry, tension, and fear, this is when I was like, hang on a second, I need to go back to my roots. I could hear my dad's voice in my head and just understanding, I saw my mom heal. So I threw in the towel. I quit that world completely. I became a yoga teacher, a registered nutritionist, mindfulness teacher as well. I went back to the ashram. I spent 2 months there and I completely just healed myself in a way. But really the foundation was food as medicine. Movement is therapy, and mindfulness is really being the journey to get me there, getting rid of this idea of a quick fix, right? Healing is really a journey, and it's ever changing. And I think that the more that we can attribute this idea of, when you guys go on vacation, what do you want to do? You want to unplug, right? You want to check out, you want to escape. What if we could incorporate those practices to everyday life so that there was no need to escape, right? It was just part of your everyday because your true sense of being wants health and happiness and joy, right? Yeah. So when I work with my clients now, the gift of the ashram obviously is there. I've seen firsthand the healing power of food and mindfulness, but it's also understanding that, this idea of retreat and vacation, that's not the solution all the time. It's great, it's necessary, but it's incorporating those practices with a sense of ease every day. Let me look at your lifestyle and your obligations and your levels of stress and anxiety and, what your mission and purpose is. And let me help you kind of figure out where in your life you can incorporate these mindfulness practices so that they feel easy and natural.
Wow.
It's amazing.
I know. I would love to.
Sounds so easy, right?
That sounds like the answer to life right there, with the bow on it.
Just snap your fingers, right? But that's such a good point, right? Because when people, and I'm sure some people, when they come to you, they're overwhelmed. They feel like it's going to be this hard process, and they've got to muscle through it and like bear down, and like start this 30-day thing, and it's going to be a challenge. No more challenges, no more gimmicks, no more fads. Just return to a sense of what you actually want.
Right.
And what's so interesting too, I really do think that people, they know what to eat. If I were to give you a plate of food, you would know inherently, is this healthy? Is it going to make me thrive and feel good?
Right.
Or is this going to deplete my health, right? So when I work with my clients over 6 weeks or 6 months, we talk about food for maybe 2 or 3 sessions. And of course, negotiating the logistics of how they're feeling through the process. But really the work comes into diving deeper. What are the thoughts that are happening in your head that are sabotaging you? What are the learned behaviors that you have from growing up, right? Would you want me to live in your head for 24 hours and hear those thoughts, right? It's almost like, breaking up with these behaviors and these patterns and stepping into a new way of being. And I think that most people are so excited for this. They want to step into a new way of being, free from the limitations, free from this idea that it's going to be hard and we're stressed out enough, right? I think we can agree that anxiety is on the rise. Most of us, all of us, are stressed every single day. So what's the point in this idea of muscling through something anymore?
Right.
It's about doing something with grace and ease. And I really do feel that optimal health, optimizing health, can be done with grace and with ease.
Right.
Yeah. And I just love that so much because I feel like we talk about this a lot, whereas people so often feel that they have to do these extremes to get to where they need to go. But the reality is more often than not, it's going back to the basics and it's doing the fundamentals of what it means to be a human being and live on earth and to really thrive.
Absolutely.
So, and I would ask you at this stage, so comparing your life 10 years ago or whenever that phase was to where you are today, do you feel that today your everyday is more difficult than it used to be?
My life today is difficult because I have 2 little kids under 5 chasing me.
Yep.
But at the same time, it's also the greatest gift because I'm now a reflection for them, right? I have to step into the sense of who I want to be because I now have 2 little witnesses following me around. Do I fall off the wagon? 100%. Do I have to remind myself to follow my own advice? 1,000%. So it's just the constant reminder. And I think that the sense of tuning in daily is something that really helps me with that. Am I feeling in balance? I think that our energy every day is the greatest indicator from our body to tell us if we're in flow, quote unquote, in flow or not, right? But we often ignore the cues, right? We get used to feeling tired and fatigue and anxiety when that's not the norm, right? So I think that the second you feel yourself going off kilter, not having the energy that you want, then it's really time to focus in on the cues. That's when you really focus in on using food as therapy. And it's not to say you're not going to have fun and go out to dinner and enjoy all of those things and the foods that you love. But, the 80-20 rule, right? 80% of the time, be impeccable with your food, your diet, your thoughts, your actions, your movement, your conversations. 20% of the time, it's okay, right? So, do you guys like sweet or salty? What do you go for?
Salty.
Salty?
Sweet.
Sweet. Okay.
We're usually opposites.
I'm salty, then sweet. I'm
nice.
both,
That
right?
describes me perfectly.
That's the perfect world, right?
Right.
But when you go out and you indulge in those things, it's about removing the guilt. So much we feel guilt. Oh, I shouldn't have eaten that. That's not on my plan. That's going to make me feel like garbage. And, we often carry that guilt with us, specifically women will wake up the following morning and say, damn it, why did I do that last night? Which is often worse than just enjoying the food.
Right.
So when you go for that 20%, love it. Make it worth it, right? Enjoy it 100%. We're
Release
here to
those endorphins and
release
get the
those
benefit from
endorphins.
that to
Totally.
balance it out.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So it sounds like you tie in a lot of mindfulness so when someone generally reaches out to you for help, are they reaching out to you for nutrition advice or are they reaching out for just like a lifestyle change or do you go from one to the other? How do you make that transition with
I love
people's
that you brought that
mindsets,
So when I first started in the industry, I lucked out. I started working with a lot of professional athletes, NHL players, hockey players back in Toronto, and a lot of really high profile CEOs. And they would really come to me for the sake of, getting the 6-pack, losing weight, training, getting to do the headstand and yoga. But they ended up staying with me because of the sense of freedom that I was able to help them tap into, right? When you are in a state of feeling happiness and joy every day, making the easy decisions is effortless, right? When you come to living healthy from a state of anxiety, worry, tension, fear that I keep bringing up, making those decisions, living those actions is so much harder, right? So to your point, I really addressed the biology first. As I mentioned, the reason why I was so excited to find you guys is because I needed a resource to be able to, for someone to look at what was happening biologically, right? Let's get the blueprint first so that we understand that. Then we go over food. How do we understand what foods are going to be nourishing for your constitution? Once we've got that blueprint, then we do the deeper work. So, one exercise that I love getting my clients in tune with is this self snapshot, I guess, your optimal thriving health snapshot is what I call it. And this looks like having gratitude every single day for your body. And again, it doesn't have to be complicated. It could be something as simple as when you wake up in the morning, thank your body, right? For the fact that it works 24/7, nonstop. It's regenerating and repairing every second of every day. But then stepping into the mindfulness around it, right? It's not really about the six-pack because often for the people who lose the weight, get the six-pack, do the headstand, they no longer feel a sense of, they don't get that happiness that lasts. Might feel good for a little while, but it doesn't allow them to thrive or stay the path, right? However, if they can start to focus and feel the emotion of happiness and joy, and they use that as kind of the attunement to awaken their health, then they're able to stay the path, right? So when I talk about this snapshot, I get them to close their eyes and just remember, when was there a moment in your life where you felt happiness, joy, freedom, a sense of liberation, and just feeling at peace? This is what we all want, right? It might be a moment that was a split second. It could have been an experience or a time in your life. But when you recall those emotions and you can actually feel the emotion, it's the feeling that counts, right? You have to make it feel so real in your body. When we do that over and over again, then they can start imagining, oh my gosh, I can see what it looked like, what it smelled like. They can see more color that was there. And every single day they relive and focus on the snapshot again. And it's the reoccurring playback of the feeling over and over, this repetition. The more that you focus on the feeling, it becomes real, right? So it's almost like awakening something that you've already experienced, as opposed to this exterior motivation that you're always chasing. Right? We've all felt a sense of joy. When you look at a child, all they know is freedom and happiness and ease. But over the years, because of society and living and stress and what we become accustomed to, returning to health it's almost become this challenge or, peeling back the onion layers, right? It's like, oh, now there's another thing. Now there's another diet. Now there's this issue. Now there's that stress or this anxiety. Life is going to be full of obstacles, but when you can really connect to your core sense of being and happiness, that is your birthright, then you're going to align with those choices and the decisions. It's no longer going to be about, am I going to cheat today? I hate that word. I'm not going to do or eat those things because it's not going to make me feel good. Instead, I'm going to align with the people that make me feel elevated, the conversations that make me feel good, the food that I know are going to nourish my body, and really the emotions that I know that I should be feeling every day. It's your birthright to feel good.
Right.
Is that a big answer?
It's an amazing answer. And I want to also talk a little bit about, you mentioned movement as part of what you talk a lot about with your clients and how to incorporate that into your life. I think you said movement is therapy, right?
Yeah.
So can you tell us a little bit about movement, how you incorporate that into your teachings?
Yeah. So when we talk about energy, everybody has energy. Some days we wake up and we feel it naturally. As we get older, it tends to get depleted. Wouldn't it be incredible if you woke up with a level 10 energy every day?
Absolutely.
It doesn't often happen. But we need to do things to figure out what that is. And from my experience, and I'm sure you guys have been witness that when people are able to move their bodies, they're moving stagnant, stuck, low vibration energy. And they step into releasing those endorphins that make them feel a sense of joy. And I would almost even say exercise, whatever type of exercise you love to do, that's meditation in and of itself. Because you become centered. All of the tabs that are opened in your brain, they get closed down, and all of a sudden you feel the endorphins that are making you feel good. Once you keep that up as a practice, right? With yoga, we say it's a practice. You go back to it over and over because you keep stepping into these endorphins, and it's a learned behavior that realizes, okay, well, if I'm going to feel good every day, this is part of my process. I need to move the stuck energy. I often reference Tony Robbins.
Yeah. So do
Have
we.
you guys ever been to? Have you been to one of his?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
We've been to
All
a
of
bunch
his.
of them. Yeah.
And he's been into Next Self as well.
Yeah.
Of course he has.
Yeah.
So I ended up becoming an NLP coach.
Oh,
NLP
great.
is neuro-linguistic programming.
Of course. Yeah.
To your point of, how do you keep somebody committed to the journey? Because it's so much more than just food, right?
Right.
It's these learned behaviors, and often it is letting go of energy that doesn't serve you.
Right.
So when I went to my first Tony Robbins experience, I couldn't believe it started at like 8 or 10 o'clock at night. I was exhausted, ready for bed. When you walk in, though, the way that he attunes you to energy is the music is loud, right? It's almost palpable. The lights are going. People are jumping up and down. They're moving their bodies, but he's tapped into this. He's changing their state.
Right.
He's getting them out of a state of feeling fatigue and lethargy and maybe sadness and stepping them into excitement and joy and energy. And all of a sudden you see like a 70 or an 80-year-old woman
Right.
now hopping up and down at the front of the room, right? So there's power in movement. And, if you don't use it, you lose that connection to it. So it doesn't mean that you have to go to the gym for 60 minutes a day, but just move your body in any way every day. That just gets the energy going.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, we've been to a few Tony Robbins things together as well.
Yeah.
And it's a marathon. It's definitely like early mornings, late nights, and you're constantly moving.
Absolutely.
And that's a big part of it, though, because when you create, a lot of it's creating this emotional experience, because we know when you have an experience tied with emotion, that sticks with you. You remember it a lot more. You create those connections to whatever happened. So he's constantly putting you in that state throughout, which is a lot of what NLP is.
You got it. It's energy in motion, right? Creating new neural pathways. And what I love about this is it's no longer woo-woo.
Right.
Like the science is really there to back it up. There's so many incredible
Could you talk about
people.
that, NLP, a little bit? Because I don't think a lot of people know what NLP is and what the science behind it is. Would you mind diving into it a little bit since you are certified?
For sure. So NLP, neuro-linguistic programming, it's really about language and understanding the languaging that you're using or the thought that you're having that aren't serving you, the behaviors that you're living that are now habitual, that really don't allow you to step into the version of yourself that you want to become. And we all need a coach, right? If you have accountability with someone, NLP was a powerful experience for me. I was able to work with a coach to really help me undo those learned behaviors, really listen to that voice in my head and understanding that it really wasn't serving me at all, and create new pathways for me to understand and step into a new way of living, right? Again, it's not something where you can completely wipe the past. It's a practice, just like yoga. But NLP is it's so powerful because you can actually create a sense of self every single day. It doesn't mean that you have to escape. It doesn't mean that you've got to go on the 30-day retreat or go to Bali. It's really waking up every day and stepping into a new way of being because you make the decision, right? And part of the practice that I mentioned before about that snapshot, remembering a time in your life, right? The more that you can make that feeling become real, this is NLP in and of itself, right? Often you work with a coach to put you through an experience where you step into looking into the past, right? And you remember it, but you're remembering it as a memory that is separate from yourself. And really understanding that the past is the past. Our trauma, our fear, our experiences, for some of us, they've been quite traumatic. It's really, using someone as a tool to let you feel that it's not who you are, right? It doesn't have to define you. Everything that we've been through, they can actually be experiences that allow us to grow, right? So I feel like especially the people who are listening, for anybody who's experiencing sadness or worry or anxiety, understanding that feeling, those feelings, the emotions, whatever your past is, it doesn't define who you are, right? There's always an opportunity to grow. Easier said than done, though, right?
Right, of course.
So, surround yourself with the people. If you can't find the coach, find the friendships, the community, or the group that you can be part of that allow you to step into a new way of being. The more that you can do that and surround yourself with those experiences, the more that it becomes you.
Right. I did that exercise with Tony Robbins, looking back into the past, and it was incredible what you're able to recall. You tap into chambers of your mind and your past that were completely wiped out. And the one thing that really resonated with me that I thought was amazing was he took you through this exercise, and you would remember an experience. And for the most part, for most people, it would be some sort of traumatic experience because we said we're tied with emotion. So the earliest memory is going to be what created the biggest impact. And for a lot of people, that would be an experience that could potentially be a negative traumatic experience. But then he's like, now let's take it one step further. Remember the moment right before that experience. Because so many people have in this mind, they create, maybe it's an experience with a parent of theirs, that the parent did something to them that they remembered them as like, negative. They didn't care about me. They wanted to do me harm, but they forgot the love that they had before. So you go back and you remember previous to that experience how much this person actually loves you, or just it gives you context of what's going on rather than just framing this, like you said, it doesn't define you. It's just part of your journey. And I think that was incredibly helpful and impactful for so many people to experience it in that way.
100%. Yeah, I had a similar experience, and we've all experienced some version. I don't even love the word trauma, but it's something that created impact for us, right? And we didn't have the tools back then to really, even our parents, right? Our parents did the best that they could.
Sure.
But these experiences created such impact that we allowed them to define us, right? Now with the awareness that we have, it's really, honoring whatever happened for the lessons that they gave us, but really acknowledging, that everything's okay, right? And I think that's what we all really want every day. We want to know that, we're cared for, we're nourished, we're protected, we're safe. And when we can feel that sense of ease or freedom, in NLP, when we talk about these levels of vibration, we find each person's core value. And I would say 99% of the time when I work with my clients, the three core values that come up are they want to feel a sense of joy, happiness, or freedom, right? And when we can really disassociate from those memories and, almost like thanking them for the lessons that they brought us, then it's like this liberation that happens, right? It's like you can be grateful for your past and just know where you're going.
Right. How do you define the difference between joy and happiness, just out of curiosity?
Yeah, I think for some people, they're very similar. I think it might be a feeling more than anything else, right? When people think, I just want to be happy, I think at the end of the day, it leads to joy. They just call it different things.
Right.
Got it.
For me, when you ask yourself, is this going to bring me joy or deplete me? It's a visual that comes up in my mind, right? If I were to ask you to feel a sense of joy, how would you move your hands? What would you be doing? Who would be with you, right? And for most of my clients, when I do this through almost a guided visualization, more often than not, their hands go over their heart. They take a long, deep breath in, and they exhale. And their shoulders melt away from their ears. And you can see that, the slate just went blank for a minute.
Right.
And they felt peace, right?
Right.
Yeah.
That's a really good explanation. Can I ask you, let's go back to nutrition a little bit.
Yeah.
So I know you like to tie science back into your nutrition advice. Could you tell us a little bit about what you look at scientifically? And when you meet someone, it's all about personalizing their diet, right? So there's so many tools out there now that we can use to personalize someone's diet and get them to kind of shortcut the trial and error phases of what you're eating and what you should not be eating, what you should be eating, those kind of things. And it's really not about what you should and should not be eating, like you said a little bit earlier. But I'm just wondering, what is your strategy around all that? I'd love to hear your process.
Yeah. So one of my favorite tests is your genetic fit test. Prior to me doing that test, I was doing this trial and error. Is the paleo thing great for me? Is the keto thing great for me? I feel good on vegetarian, but I'm just not sure what's the best thing. And then when I could understand, my biology actually prefers, and I could actually see I'm better, my constitution is better when I'm on more of a carbohydrate-based diet with a little bit of protein and a smaller amount of fat, right? Look at my constitution where my parents are from. It makes sense. What was a typical Indian diet, right? They eat a lot of carbohydrates.
Right.
So when I understand that scientifically behind it, I think it almost gives people a sense of ease. And it's also not labeling, carbs is good or bad, protein is good or bad, fat is good or bad. But I think the core similarity between all of the diets that are best for all of us is a plant-focused diet, right? since I was pregnant. So when I was pregnant with my daughter, I was actually a carbitarian. I only ate carbs. It felt really good. It didn't serve me afterwards. But I stopped having cravings for meat. I couldn't do it. It didn't feel good for me. Now, ethically, it just doesn't feel good for me. No judgment on any other people, but I'm also severely anemic. So I do understand the value in consuming animal-based protein at some points. So when I can bring this knowledge to my clients, it's almost like, okay, well, I can let myself off the hook of trying to look for this type of diet on a menu, and I can just eat according to what feels good. And now I know that having these foods from this category is great for me. So to answer your question, when I give my clients a diet, I really give them an entire list of foods based on these findings that will allow them to thrive. Whenever you go grocery shopping, whenever you go out to eat, everything on this list is going to make you feel great. Everything on this list, not so much. And that looks different for everybody based on their findings. Whether this is through food sensitivities, food allergies, or their constitution. The other finding for me was that I have a hard time metabolizing starchy carbohydrates. Not the best for me. I'm also prone to having high cholesterol. So now it's just the awareness around it, knowing that these foods are going to make me sick and might make me more susceptible to the genetic issues that come up, versus these foods that are really going to help me thrive and move away from those biological genetic issues. And, after turning my health around from heart surgeries, from being diagnosed, I'm living proof that having a diagnosis, your biology is not your destiny. You can turn this around. And if everybody could just live into this, because one of the biggest fears that my clients face is often when they leave the doctor's office, they're given a diagnosis. Could be something minor, could be something major, and God willing, it's not. But when that happens, what happens? The doctors, I'm sure you've seen patients who leave, and it's like, I have cancer. Now I'm sick.
Right.
Everything that they do from that day forward aligns with the behaviors of a sick person.
Sure.
Instead of leaving, you have this illness, but don't worry, let's do the things that are going to help you thrive. Let's find the people and the opportunities and the resources that are out there to turn this around, right? And leaving with a sense of optimism and hope. There's a very big difference. And I'm really excited to be part of this paradigm shift, along with you guys, that are really putting the control back into the client's hands, the patient's hands, right?
And it's so much about education and changing habits. It's like we have to undo such of the learnings, the incorrect learnings and teachings that everyone is guilty of promoting for so long over the past decade.
Absolutely.
It's a really big task, but that's why we're doing things like this and these podcasts and these businesses, and as much as we can to really spread this message, because we have to change the mindset around health. And we say this all the time: health is not the absence of disease; it's the abundance of vitality.
Absolutely.
How good can we actually feel?
I love that.
Yeah.
Right? And now the focus on the abundance of things that you can do to optimize your health.
Right.
Right? So, for everyone watching and listening, when I talk about this undiet idea, when you think about food, energetically, foods that are natural, whole living foods will give your body more energy, right? That's why, to my point before about being plant focused, when you look at your food, 75% of your plate should be full of these vibrant colors, right? Eat the rainbow, look for diversity. We now know also with gut microbiome health, right? It's less about the pills that you can take to optimize gut bacteria. It's more about the foods that you eat. Look for variety. When you go grocery shopping, try to avoid eating the same foods on repeat.
Try to avoid the whole middle of the grocery store.
Exactly.
Right? The whole fake
middle.
section.
Anything with a plastic bag around it, wrapped around it in a box or something. Right?
So I call that dead food, right?
It's dead food, right?
Dead food. Some of the, people who thought they would be healthiest seeing me, all these vegetarians who are eating out of a box. That's not the healthy way to do things, right? So no matter what you adhere to, whatever diet makes you feel good, as long as you're focusing on these living foods that come from the earth, preferably, the closer that you can get them to the farmer, locally grown, is so important. But look for variety. And the easiest way to do that is, I say to my clients, shop what's on sale every week, right? If you're trying to eat organic, especially, shop what's on sale. It forces you to eat food on variety so that you're not going back to, I know it's comfortable being a creature of habit. We are. But the more that you can do that, the more that you can optimize your health, because you're not only taking in the variety of vitamins and minerals and nutrients from these foods, but also from the soil that they were grown in, right? And that's powerful.
Can I ask you about that? Because I think that's something I struggle with personally, because every time I go to the grocery store, I always go to Whole Foods, I get the big box of spinach because it's so easy. I can throw it in everything. And that's the majority of the greens that I get and I eat a ton of it. Like I'll go through a box every couple of days. But how much of a disadvantage am I at if that's my primary source of greens?
So again, it's different for everyone, your constitution. I'll use my example. So years ago, when I did my food allergy and sensitivity testing, I was amazed when the results came back and I was allergic to things like kale, apple, and ginger. What was I putting in my shake, my protein shake every single
That's
day?
what you're putting in there, right?
Kale, apple, and ginger. I kid you not, probably for like 6 months to a year, right? And your body just gets depleted in those enzymes. Often that leads to food sensitivity. It doesn't mean that you can't have those foods, but just mix things up. So when we go through this reintroductory phase for people, we put those foods on rotation. It doesn't mean that you can't ever have them again, but you reintroduce them on rotation. So it's not to say that you're at a disadvantage. Obviously, you're going to get nutrients. I love spinach because you can't taste it, especially when you're putting it into shakes.
Right.
But instead, next time, look for, bok choy or Swiss chard or celery, zucchini, throwing other greens into your shake and masking that flavor.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Just looking for
sure.
the variety. Just do it. And again, it's a learned behavior, right?
Right.
So the more that you get used to it and just have a handful, I would say have 5 different recipes as a roster for smoothies, salads, or dinners, then you can keep those on rotation throughout the week.
Right. That's a great idea.
Right, absolutely. And then as far as the seasonality of food too, I think people go to the grocery store and everything's in season all the time now, right?
Right.
Because we store food forever. We ship it from all over the world to us. Like, I feel like people don't even know what's the right season for apples or oranges. What do you think about that? Do you think we should be eating seasonally aware?
Yeah, so this goes back to my roots, obviously, with the foundation in Ayurveda. Ayurveda is an ancient practice that I love because it's founded in wisdom, tradition, and science, really, right? We can get watermelon in the dead of winter. It never really feels like winter in LA, but in Toronto, when it's snowing outside, we should not be eating watermelon, right? We should be eating seasonally. So this time of year going into fall and winter, for everyone's constitution, the things that are easier to digest, better for your joints, are things like soups and stews and casseroles, things that are warming, as opposed to, from an Ayurveda standpoint, things that are cooling. So things like raw vegetables, raw leafy greens, cold icy smoothies and bowls and stuff like that, right? Often, from an Ayurvedic standpoint, again, you might notice a change in your symptoms. For somebody who's used to waking up with joint pain in the morning or something like that, turn those foods around into things that are warming, that are seasonal, and you might notice a difference in your energy levels.
Interesting. I love how you tie in Ayurveda as well because it makes total sense.
Go back to ancient wisdom. You know what I mean? And it's been around forever. And I guess I can speak a bit more personally to it because when you go and live in an ashram, that's what they do. Right? You eat seasonally all the time. And there's power to this.
Right. Where's this ashram that you were in?
So the Shivananda Ashrams is the association that I grew up with. It was in Val-Morin in Quebec, but they have locations all around the world. When I did my yoga teacher training, I went to Nassau in the Bahamas because I wanted to be by the ocean.
Right.
Yeah, but just a beautiful organization. And, I think the other piece that maybe we haven't brought up is community, right? And finding your tribe.
Right.
I think there's so much value to, one, being clear on the type of people that you're hanging out with. Research has proven that if you're, associating with people who are healthy with the same goals, when you're aligned with those things together, the chances of you committing to those long term and having it remain a lifestyle change are more positive, right?
Absolutely.
And, I think it's really hard today. We're addicted to our phones and our screens, and we're all very busy, right? I read a great article about busy becoming the new emotion. How are you? Oh, I'm so busy, right?
So true, right?
I don't know. How are you?
I say that all the time. Like, I'm guilty of that, right?
When it's like, no, I really want to know how you're doing, right? And if we can just open up again and be a little bit more vulnerable and talk about how we're actually feeling, we might be open to making the changes because someone's going to be calling us out on the fact that, you said you weren't feeling good the last time. What have you done to improve that?
Right.
You said that you always are feeling bloated and you've got this anxiety. What can I do to help? Right? There's an abundance abundance of resources out there, but we often listen when it comes from a friend. And the only way our friend is going to give us unsolicited advice is if we share our symptoms with authenticity, right?
Right.
And so there has to be a return to this conversation, because if we know that we're all in the state of wanting to get out of suffering, then it's going to be easy to step into the feeling of health and happiness.
Right.
When we do
And
it
I really
together.
feel like in today's day and age, it's got to be a conscious decision to make that sense of community.
Yeah.
Because at least in cities like LA, the environment doesn't really support it as much as it used to, because we're so connected to everything. We're so busy. It's hard to make those deep relationships. Everyone wants to have as many relationships as possible. They want to have as many friends as possible, as many likes as possible. And that translates into the real world where we have all of these shallow relationships. And I really feel like we just have to make a conscious effort to identify who's your tribe, who's your community, and invest in that. Spend time with these people, be there for them. It's a give and take relationship to get to the point where you're able to really have these benefits and give value back and forth.
Absolutely. I have to take a second. I'll call out a dear friend of mine here. His name is Drew Pruitt. I don't know if you know him.
Yeah.
So he is such a great person at connecting people. I mentioned that I was new to LA, and I mentioned this idea of really wanting deep connection and relationships, but it was hard to get, right? And especially as a new parent, you're so consumed with all this responsibility on top of your lifestyle. So he naturally connected me to somebody else of the same ethnic background who also had children. And all of a sudden, we had something to kind of connect over, and that just kept growing.
Right.
And now it's almost like a lesson that I want to pay forward. Be the person in your community that connects somebody with somebody else. Be the people connector, because that's what we all crave. We feel so much better when we have that community.
Right.
Even at Next Health, I know that you guys have gatherings, right? You're building community for people to build new relationships and friendships.
Right.
And they have that platform where they've got the common baseline of connection.
Right.
Right?
And they have something to talk about. Like we do these forefront talks at Next Health, and people come there and you can see all of them having conversations amongst
And they don't
each
want to
other.
leave at the end of the night.
Right, exactly. Yeah. And it's great to see them having conversations about health and their health journeys and what they're doing. And they really do find a sense of community in that. And I think it's also important to mention that a sense of community is not your Instagram friends. Like,
Absolutely.
Right. That's what I was referring to. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like
Absolutely.
you need to have that human to human interaction. There's
agree.
so much going on in between people in person, whether it be endorphins or just eye contact, body language, and energy transfer. Like your energy aura does transfer when you're in person, and none of that happens when you're on social media. So,
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Right. And they can actually test this out.
Right.
Right. Which is so powerful.
Right.
And I think, we're going in a direction where social media and the internet and Instagram, all of these platforms are going to continue to grow, right? So what do we do about it? And I think it's an opportunity for us to be the ambassadors to say, look, this is an opportunity to inspire change. If you want to be present on these platforms, be a person of service. That's really my mission in life.
Right.
If I can go online and be of service, if I can help one person or a million people, then that is what drives me. So, getting the recognition is nice, but, tell somebody else about it and refer them to somewhere else or another platform where they're going to be inspired to create change, right? This, I think, is going to be the silver lining of it all.
Agreed.
Totally agree. So you co-authored a book recently, huh?
I did.
Tell us.
So I co-authored a book and I founded a company that's based on jicama as well, which is a root vegetable.
I recently found jicama and it's my new obsession.
No way.
I found it
So
from
good.
I knew of it, but I never really thought to eat it or saw what it actually looked like. And from the
Yeah.
longevity paradox, from reading that, he listed it and I
You
got
got
it.
it.
And I've been obsessed ever since. Like that's my last 3-month obsession. So sorry to interrupt. But
I love that.
Yeah.
Jicama in my mind is a superfood. I'll start with that first. So it's been on my clients' meal plans forever because it's a prebiotic fiber.
Right.
The awareness has always been on probiotics, but prebiotic fiber is essentially food for the good bacteria in your gut. And whenever I've tried to get my clients off of the cookies, the chips, or the unhealthy snacks, jicama is so great as a root vegetable to just, cut up, snack on with some lemon or some hummus or whatever it is. And when I was pregnant with my second baby, we always had jicama in the house. And my husband and I had the idea to juice it one day. Tasted great as a juice. And so we founded a company called Jicama Life, which was really based on the gut health and healing powers of jicama.
wow.
So more to come on that. I'll share that with you as it rolls out. But with that, I now was labeled as a female entrepreneur and CEO, which is a powerful title to wear. And also, I think I want to call out to all the moms out there. It's great to wear the title, but it's also, honoring the fact that you're also a mother and a CEO in two separate worlds. It's not about doing it all and muscling through it. It's really building a community to show empathy around it and wanting to be a person that's driven, but also, maintain the sense of being a mother, but not letting go of your former self and my hardcore A-type personality. So it's a group called Hey Mama, and the founder basically got a group of mothers together who are out there building companies and businesses to create a positive impact, and we're able to come together and co-author a book. I think it was just listed as one of the #1 bestsellers on Amazon, which is really great. So Hey Mama, check that out. Thank you.
It's incredible.
Yeah, writing was a tremendous, freeing and liberating experience. I think that to go back to this idea of sharing our story, there's so many other people who are out there and can empathize with us. So share what you're feeling, share your emotions, use your platform, whether it's in conversation, writing on Instagram, doesn't have to be writing a book, but just, keep sharing, because I think there's an opportunity to inspire change everywhere.
That's awesome. I love it. Well, I'm so glad that you came here today to share with us.
Me too.
It's been amazing talking to you. And, I can't wait to see everything you have going on in the future. I love the jicama products. I mean,
I'm excited to try that out.
Love jicama.
Yeah, you'll see that.
So where can people find you?
MonaSharma.com, Mona Sharma on Instagram. I really use that as my
and it's
platform.
Sharma.
Mona, M-O-N-A, last name Sharma. Okay. Yeah, and you'll see me there. I'm the one with 2 little kids hanging
You're
out
on Red
with
Table
me.
Talk too, right?
Yes. Yeah, I was recently featured on Red Table Talk. So Will Smith is one of my clients, and he was also inspired this idea. He's somebody who you'd think that somebody at that caliber would know exactly what to eat, right? He's got a team of people to really make sure that, and obviously he lives the part.
Sure.
When we had our initial consultation, he shared with me, I really don't know what to eat to make myself feel great. Right. So a couple of days later, I got a call from the Red Table Talk community, and they asked me to come on the show because he wanted to share this message, obviously with his family and optimizing their health, but also, I guess, with the world. So I'm so grateful that he was willing to make his bowel movements mainstream, talk about constipation, and
Great.
The feedback has been incredible. The amount of people who didn't think that, or who they basically thought that living with symptoms was normal.
Right.
Bloating, irritability, constipation, not having bowel movements every single day, heartburn, acid reflux, feeling lethargic and tired, or depression, right? People we're getting used to living with these symptoms when that's exactly what they are. They're symptoms.
Sure.
They're cues from your body to tell you to tune in, that there's an opportunity to change. So grateful that he came into my life, and we're going to be working with him and his team to really optimize their health going forward. But yeah, you can check out Red Table Talk through Facebook online to see the interview that was done there as well.
Amazing.
Amazing.
And
Yeah.
hopefully we can have you come and do a forefront talk with us. Speaking of
love
community,
that.
we'd love to have you be a part of that.
My dream come true. I
That
would
would
love
be
that.
awesome.
Yeah, I'm so grateful for everything that you guys are doing. Honestly,
Thank
I've been
you.
your cheerleader since the beginning. So I'm just amazed and grateful that my clients can come to you with peace of mind.
And we're so honored that you joined us here today. We love referring people to you as well. And this has been a great relationship and great community for sure.
Absolutely.
So thank you so much. And we'll definitely be hearing from you more.
Thank you, guys. Thanks for
you.
having
Thank
me.
you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.